Hello Year 10. Today we're going to be solving linear equations, but before we move on to new work, each lesson we're going to quickly revise what we have learnt the lesson before. Here is a few questions from adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, expanding and factorising that hopefully you practiced in our last lesson. So let's have a quick look at these. In 1a, we're simplifying and we're looking for like terms because we're adding and subtracting. So ab squared is different to that one because that's an a squared b, but this one is an ab squared. So those two will be like terms. 2 minus 1 would be 1ab squared. We wouldn't write the 1 in the front, we would just write ab squared. But a squared b and a squared b, they would go together. So 5 plus 5 makes 10, so plus 10 a squared b. Part B, the fraction there means that we're dividing. So 28 over 56, both 56 divides by 28, goes twice. So we would get a 1 on the top and a 2 on the bottom. The b's will cancel out completely, so all that is left is a negative a on the top and a 2 on the bottom. Question 2, expanding. 3 times 2t makes 6t. 3 times 3 makes 9. Then minus 5 times 2 makes minus 10. Minus 5 times minus t is plus 5t. Collecting like terms, 6t plus 5t makes 11t. 9 minus 10 can go together to make a negative 1. Question 3, factorising. The 8 and the 40, both of those can be divided by 8. And remember, you need to try and find the biggest factor if you want to get full marks. Both of them also have an a squared, so that can come out as a factor. Putting the leftovers in the bracket, the 8 and the a squared are out the front, so the b, that will be all that's left inside that bracket for the first term. 40 divided by 8 goes 5 times, and again the a squared is out the front. So that's it, close the bracket. All right, new work time. Solving linear equations. Remember that you need to keep your equations balanced, which means that if you do something to one side of the equation, you also have to do it to the other side. So this was doing the opposites. Add and subtract are opposites of each other, and multiply and divide are opposites of each other. So if I'm trying to solve to find out what a is equal to, I want to get rid of this plus 4 that's with it. The opposite of a plus 4 is to minus 4. I do it to both sides. That will get rid of the 4 with the a, and a will now be by itself. 11 take away 4 makes 7. So that's a simple one-step equation. That's something you've been doing since year 7. Let's get a little bit harder, a little bit faster. Moving on to a two-step equation. We're trying to find the m, so we have the 2 and the minus 4 to get rid of. The first thing to do would be to add 4 to both sides, giving you 2m equals 11 plus 4, which is 15. The second step is to get rid of the 2. The 2 is multiplied with the m, so the opposite is to divide by 2. Cancel that 2 off there. M will be equal to 15 divided by 2, which is 7.5 or 7.5. Now, I always get people saying, can I put down decimal answers? The answer is yes, if it is something like 7.5. If it is a decimal that you have to round though, it is much better if you leave it as a fraction. So fractions are always the safest answers. C. Again, this is a two-step equation because other than the x here, there is two numbers, the 4 and the 5, that will need to be moved away. Now the 4 is being affected by that 5, so the 5 has to go first. Because of the fraction, that means that that 5 is dividing, so we want to times by 5. Do the opposite. So that will leave x plus 4 equals minus 15. Then the plus 4, the opposite is to minus 4. X is by itself, minus 15 minus 4 is minus 19. Question D has pronumerals on both sides. I have a h on both sides of that equation. So I always like to deal with that first and move the letters, all the letters, over to the left-hand side of the equation, which means that 3h is on the wrong side. I'm going to move the whole term by subtracting 3h from both sides. That means 5h minus 3h makes 2h. Then I still have the plus 4, and that will be equal to minus 6, turning that into a nice two-step equation. So working towards that h, the next thing I need to do is minus the 4. So I get 2h equals negative 10. Then 2h here, I want to divide that 2 away. So h is equal to negative 5. Okay, over the page. Now we have an equation with some brackets. So let's expand the brackets out. 3 times 4 makes 12x, then plus 3 times 5 makes 15 equals 7x. Okay, now I have pronumerals on both sides, so like last time, I'm going to move the one over here on the right, and we'll subtract the 7x away, moving it over to the left-hand side of the equation. 12 take away 7 makes 5x plus the 15. Because I've taken that 7x away, there is nothing left, which means 0 on the right-hand side. Okay, now a two-step equation to get the x by itself. Let's minus 15. 5x equals 0 minus 15 is minus 15. Then divide the 5. X equals minus 15 divided by 5 is minus 3. F, fractions on both sides of the equation. If it's just one fraction on the left and one fraction on the right of that equal sign, then we have something called, a strategy called cross-multiplying that we can use. That means we take what's on the top of the first fraction and we multiply it with what's on the bottom of the second fraction. So 3 multiplies with 10 minus x. Then we say equals, which at the top of the right side, and we multiply it with the bottom of the first side. So 2 multiplies with the x plus 1. And then the fractions are gone from that question, and it's now a much more straightforward thing to do. So first thing I'll do is to expand those brackets. 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times minus x is minus 3x. Equals. Expand the other side. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 1 is 2. Now, we have x's on both sides, so let's take the one on the right-hand side here, subtract it away, so that we're collecting them up on the left side. We have 30. Minus 3 minus 2 more make minus 5x equals 2. Then, getting everything away from my 1x here, I'll need to subtract the 30 first, which makes minus 5x equals minus 28. And then finally, we're going to divide by negative 5 to get the answer, which minus 28 divided by minus 5 doesn't go nicely. The two minuses will cancel out. 28 divided by 5 goes 5 times with a remainder of 3, so it would be 5 3/5. Question G. If I have a fraction, but I also have another term there, please don't ever try to cross-multiply. It won't work. So in this case, there is another strategy that I can do, is that if I want to get rid of a fraction, then I can multiply the whole equation through by 3 to get rid of the fraction. There is another way to do it. You could minus the 1 first, but I wanted to show you this strategy. So I'm going to get rid of this 3 first, which means I'm going to times everything by 3, which means that 3 will cancel off the bottom of that fraction. 3 times 1 is 3. Then I have minus the 2 minus x, and I put that in brackets because that minus has to expand through, is equal to 6. And that got rid of the fraction for me straight away. If I expand out the bracket, I get minus 2 plus x equals 6. 3 minus 2 is 1 plus x equals 6. And then I can just minus the 1 and get x equals 5. Okay. Moving on to question 2. Write an equation and solve it to find x. So there's no guessing and checking here. If you just guess the answer and write it down, you're not going to get the full marks. You do need to be able to make the equation and then be able to solve it. So it says 5 less than twice x. So twice x means 2x, and 5 less than that means I want to subtract 5. If you do 5 minus 2x, that would be wrong, because that means you're saying the 2x is the one that has been taken off. Where it says in the question, the 5, it has to be 5 less, the 5 is the one that has to be subtracted, which is the opposite order to the way that it's written there in that question. So 2x minus 5 is, so that word is represents my equal sign, 3 less than x. So the 3 has to be taken away. So it'll be x take away 3. So I've made an equation that has pronumerals on both sides. I'm going to subtract the x away to get rid of that. 2x minus x is x, minus 5 equals minus 3. Then I'm going to add the 5 to get x is equal to 2. Question 3. Using the equation s equals ut plus a half at squared, solve for u given that s equals 20t equals 2 and a equals 40. So this is a substitution question, but then you'll have to rearrange it to solve to find out what u is. So starting with this lovely equation that we've been given, which is actually a physics formula, s is equal to 20, so we're going to go 20 equals u, I don't know what that is yet, but I know it's times with the t, which is 2. So it's u times 2, or 2u would be a nicer way to write that. Then we have plus half times a, which is 4, times t squared, which is 2 squared. Okay, let's tidy up this thing at the end here. What's half of 4? Half of 4 is 2, times 2 squared, which is 4. So 2 times 4 makes 8. So it's 20 equals 2u plus 8. You could just type that in the calculator if you want to, just to tidy up that thing at the end there. Now I want to solve to find out what u is. So I'm going to minus the 8. And because I like my pronumeral on the left, I'm going to switch the 2u over here to the left. And 20 take away 8 is 12. Then finally divide the 2 and we get u is equal to 6. And we're done. So now it is your turn to do exercise 1B.